Monte Carlo, where your tires are always wrong, the ice is invisible, and the cliffs are permanent. For over a century, this mountain has been breaking machines and egos. Forget what you know about rally, let's see the steel that actually survived. Starting with the... Back in 1911, we start with Henry Raugier. He won based on arbitrary points for elegance rather than just speed, absolute madness. But pretty didn't matter once reliability became the goal for the Burley at 16 HP. As 1912 rolled in, this car proved that surviving unpaved alpine passes without a heater or GPS was the real test. This raw grit was about to be silenced by a world at war until the 1924 return of the Bignan 2-liter Sport. Moving into 1924, the rally returned with the Bignan finally showcasing post-war aerodynamics that looked like a proper racer. But sleek lines were no match for the massive displacement of the Renault 40 CV. When 1925 arrived, Renault brought a 9-liter monster to a mountain fight, pure brute force against the elements, but heavy iron soon struggled against the light-footed AC 2-liter. By the time 1926 started, the British AC proved endurance by winning after a marathon start from Scotland. Yet, endurance was nothing without the agility of the Amilcar CGSS. Turning the page to 1927, a featherweight cyclocar that danced through hairpins that choked the big engines. But Italy was preparing a high-tech overhead cam response called the Fiat 509S. In the year 1928, this Fiat was a technical masterpiece for its time, bringing sophisticated Italian engineering to the ice, until American torque arrived to bully the mountain in the Graham Page 612. As we hit 1929, American muscle plowed through snow that left Europeans spinning their wheels in frustration. But the French fought back with a nimble creature known as the La Licorne 5 CV. Entering 1930, the Unicorn proved that on black ice, lightweight beats horsepower every single time. Following this, British luxury returned to the low-slung Invicta S-Type. When 1931 came around, it was so low it looked glued to the tarmac, but low-slung beauty couldn't stop the Americans from reclaiming the throne with the Graham Page. Fast forward to 1932, a repeat performance proving their first win wasn't a fluke. American iron was a threat, at least until Hotchkiss perfected the art of the Hotchkiss AM80S. By 1933, Hotchkiss began an era where reliability was the ultimate weapon. They didn't just race, they survived, and they did it again with the Hotchkiss 611. Approaching 1934, back-to-back glory, engines that refused to die in the freezing Alpine night. Their streak finally broke when Renault focused on the wind with the Renault Nervasport. In the 1935 season, streamlined and fast, it made the competition look like flying bricks. But aero is one thing, the roar of a V8 is another. Enter the Ford V8. Crossing into 1936, Ford brought affordable American power to Monaco, proving torque is the best weapon against a 10% incline. While Ford brought noise, Delahaye brought art with the Delahaye 135 MS. The year was 1937, still one of the most beautiful winners ever. Pure French elegance at 100 miles per hour, but rugged simplicity won the day next for the Ford V8. As 1938 unfolded, the V8 returned to the top step, showing that a reliable hammer often beats a fancy scalpel. The pre-war era then ended in a historic tie involving the Hotchkiss 686 GS. Closing the decade in 1939, two French legends sharing the last drop of glory before the world went to hell. Rebounding in 1949, picking up exactly where they left off. Class is permanent, and war couldn't kill this engine's spirit, but post-war ambition was about to go even bigger with the Delahaye 175. Heading into 1950, a 4.5-liter rolling palace that literally crushed the opposition under its weight. One win wasn't enough for this titan, so it returned as the Delahaye 175S. By 1951, proving that sheer mass provides its own kind of winter traction, but the era of the giant cars was ending, thanks to a man named Allard P. 1. When 1952 rolled in, Sidney Allard won in a car he built himself, the only manufacturer to ever do so, but individual pride soon met mainstream engineering in the Ford Zephyr. In the year 1953, a balanced chassis that danced through the slushy hairpins while the heavyweights struggled. But the dance was about to get sophisticated with the Lancia Aurelia B20 GT. By the time 1954 arrived, Th. The first car to ever use a V6 in competition. Lancia's dynasty starts right here. Yet, innovation was met by British persistence in the Sunbeam Talbot 90. Looking at 1955, a car that won because it simply refused to brake when the Italians quit in the cold. But British persistence went extra large with the Jaguar Mark VII. As 1956 began, Jaguar brought a 2-ton limousine to a rally and actually won. Absolute madness. The era of the giants finally ended with the lightweight Renault Dauphine. Entering 1958, small, light and rear-engined, the perfect tool for the icy conditions of 58. While Renault went small, Citroën went futuristic with the Citroën ID19. Moving to 1959, hydro-pneumatic suspension that floated over bumps that snapped the axles of other cars. But floating wasn't as fast as German precision in the Mercedes-Benz 220 SE. By 1960, the Fintel-proved build quality could conquer any mountain. Precision then met aerodynamic eccentricity in the Panhard PL17. In 1961, a tiny 2-cylinder engine and clever aero slicing through the Alpine air. Aero was good, but the Swedes brought a winter weapon called the Saab 96. As 1962 started, Erik Karlsson and a 2-stroke engine, the ultimate recipe for surviving a blizzard. The Swedes liked the podium enough to keep it for the Saab 96. Hitting 1963, proving that traction and a driver with no fear matter more than raw horsepower. But a new giant killer was arriving, the Mini Cooper S. In the year 1964, Paddy Hopkirk showed the world that a tiny box on 10-inch wheels could humiliate the V8 monsters. The Mini proved it wasn't a fluke in the Mini Cooper S. Turning to 1965, it cemented its icon status, proving agility is the ultimate weapon. Then came the most controversial year ever, involving the Citroën DS21. When 1966 arrived, the Minis were disqualified over a headlight bulb technicality, handing a hollow win to Citroën. Seeking revenge, the Mini returned for the Mini Cooper S. By 1967, reclaiming its crown on the road, where it belonged. But the era of microcars was ending as the engine moved to the back for the Porsche 911T. Starting 1968, Porsche found the secret. Rear-engine weight meant unbeatable traction on snow. That traction evolved into a flat-six symphony with the Porsche 911S. In 1969, more power, same result. The 911 was becoming the mountain's worst nightmare, completing a hat-trick in 1970. Next, the French responded with the Alpine Renault A110. As we enter 1971, low, wide, and impossibly fast, a featherweight rocket on steroids, Italy countered with the front-wheel drive balance of the Lancia Fulvia. In the 1972 season, a clinical display of skill that kept the Italian flag flying, but Alpine returned with more power for the first official WRC year in the Alpine Renault A110. By the time 1973 rolled in, the first-ever winner of the official WRC era, a masterpiece of French engineering. Returning in 1975, road cars were dead. This was a purpose-built stage killer. It didn't just win, it intimidated, and it did it again as the Lancia Stratos HF. By 1976, its Ferrari-powered roar became the definitive sound of the 70s. The Italian dominance felt permanent by the time we saw the Lancia Stratos HF. In the 1977 season, 3 years of total supremacy, but the spaceship finally landed, leaving room for the old-school king to return, the Porsche 911 Carrera. When 1978 arrived, proving the rear-engine layout was still lethal when the weather turned. From German precision to British sideways action with the Ford Escort RS 1800. Heading into 1979, high-revving, rear-wheel drive grit, a fan favorite that fought its way to the top. Italy struck back with a boxy monster called the Fiat 131 Abarth. As 1980 began, perfectly balanced and aggressive, the last moment of RWD supremacy before mid-engine madness arrived with the Renault 5 Turbo. In 1981, this widebody monster proved Renault still knew how to dominate, but RWD was peaking in the hands of Walter Röhrl and the Opel Ascona 400. Moving to 1982, the last gasp of the old school, Röhrl used grit to beat the future. Lancia then pulled a stroke of genius with the Lancia Rally 37. By 1983, they famously salted the roads to help this RWD legend beat the AWD Audis. Pure brilliance. but progress was inevitable with the Audi Quattro A2. In 1984, the AWD revolution, two-wheel drive was dead on arrival. Audi's reign was cut short by a smaller, faster French monster, the Peugeot 205 Turbo 16. When 1985 came around, Group B reaches its peak, a mid-engine rocket that made the Alps a blur. It got even faster the next year with the Peugeot 205 Turbo 16 E2. And, during 1986, 500 horsepower in a shoe, too fast to live, too iconic to forget. After the monsters were banned, Lancia started an empire with the Lancia Delta HF 4WD. By 1987, high-tech 4WD focused on control over raw power. That consistency turned into another win for the evolving Lancia Delta HF 4WD. In 1988, evolving faster than its rivals, the Delta was now the king of the Alps. The evolution reached its peak with the fled Fender Lancia Delta HF Integral. As 1989 rolled in, the most successful rally car in history, wide, mean, and unbeatable. Adding more valves kept the streak alive for the Lancia Delta HF Integral 16V. Heading into 1990, a masterclass in dominance, the Italian wall finally cracked when Japan arrived with the high-tech Toyota Celica GT4. By 1991, engineering from the Far East finally claimed the throne. Lancia snatched one last gasp of greatness in '92 with the Lancia Delta HF Integral. Turning to 1992, the end of an empire, Lancia's final victory cemented their legend. The torch passed back to Toyota and their clinical Toyota Celica Turbo 4WD. In 1993, reliability and turbocharging became the new world standard. While Toyota used tech, Ford brought the massive wing of the Ford Escort RS Cosworth. When 1994 arrived, the Cossie brought raw spirit back to the mountain. Then, the world turned blue and gold with the arrival of the Subaru Impreza 555. As we hit 1995, Colin McRae and the 555, an icon was born. Ford managed to snatch one back from the icons in the Ford Escort RS Cosworth. Moving to 1996, a brief interruption before a storm brewing in the hands of a flying Finn. Subaru responded with the full-spec Subaru Impreza WRC 97. Entering 1997, a weapon of mass destruction on asphalt, but this cult icon was met by the surgical precision of the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution IV. By 1998, Tommy Mäkinen began a reign that defined the 90s. That reign continued with the even more aggressive Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VI. As 1999 unfolded, Mitsubishi's 4WD was becoming a nightmare for the competition. The nightmare continued into the millennium with the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VI. Starting 2000, a hat-trick for Mäkinen, he made it look like a Sunday drive. The four-peat was completed in 2001 by the same Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VI. In 2001, a dominant display of man and machine, Subaru returned for one last celebration with the Subaru Impreza WRC 2001. Fast forward to 2002. A final hurrah for the Impreza before the Loeb era began with the surgical Citroën Xsara WRC. By 2003, Sebastian Loeb didn't just win, he redesigned rally driving. The Xsara was a cheat code through 2005. Ford finally broke the spell with the Ford Focus RS WRC 6. Turning to 2006, proving the French gods could be challenged, but Loeb returned with the devastatingly efficient Citroën C4 WRC. In the 2007 season, a new car, same result. The C4 continued its reign of terror through 2008. A brief shift to S2000 regs then let Peugeot return with the Peugeot 207 S2000. By 2009, reminding everyone they still knew how to win, Ford capitalized on the transition with the agile Ford Fiesta S2000. Entering 2010, a win that proved this chassis was a future threat, but Peugeot came back for seconds in 2011 with the Peugeot 207 S2000. In 2011, the class of the field before full power returned. Loeb naturally reclaimed the throne in the Citroën DS3 WRC. As 2012 started, back to full power, and Loeb was still untouchable. One final masterclass came in 2013. As one Sebastian left, another arrived in the Volkswagen Polo RWRC. When 2014 came around, Ogier and the Polo R German engineering met French speed. They were untouchable for 3 years, ending with the Volkswagen Polo RWRC. By 2016, clinical efficiency at its peak. After VW left, Ogier took his talents to M Sport and the Ford Fiesta WRC. Crossing into 2017, proving it was the driver, not just the car, Ogier doubled down in 2018. Citroën then found their spark one last time in the Citroën C3 WRC. In 2019, proving French flair still worked in Monaco, then came the massive investment from Korea in the Hyundai i20 Coupe WRC. As we hit 2020, Hyundai finally conquered the mountain. Toyota's long-awaited return reached its peak in 2021 with the Toyota Yaris WRC. By 2021, the Yaris was back on top. The hybrid era then started with a shock return in the Ford Puma Rally 1. Moving to 2022, Sebastian Loeb returned at age 47 to show the kids how it's done. Toyota responded with the gold standard Toyota GR Yaris Rally 1. As 2023 began, hybrid performance and reliability, Hyundai's persistence was rewarded again in 2024 as Neuville mastered the Hyundai i20N Rally 1. In 2024, reclaiming the crown for Korea. And finally, the latest chapter belongs to the dominant Toyota GR Yaris Rally 1. Closing in 2025, Toyota closes the loop, proving they are currently the team that everyone else has.